Hi, welcome to Bar Cart Bookshelf, a video series about books and the drinks they inspire. My name is Elias, and today we're talking about The Everlasting by Alix E. Harrow. The Everlasting is a fantasy novel by longtime friend of Bar Cart Bookshelf, Alix E. Harrow, a Kentucky author, now outside of our Commonwealth, but always in our hearts. We've talked about a number of Harrow novels here on Bar Cart Bookshelf in the past, including very early on in our tenure, The Once and Future Witches, and in spooky season 2 years ago, Starling House. I encourage you to check those books out and the drinks associated with them as well. This is especially a great time of year for the Three Sisters, our cocktail inspired by The Once and Future Witches, an ingredient that we'll be using again today. The Everlasting is a fantasy novel. It's a time loop story wherein a scholar, Owen Mallory, is repeatedly yoked back into the 1,000-year past of his nation Dominion in order to ensure that one of the nation's sort of foundational legends comes to fruition, and the complications that arise around that, because, you know, a lot of people use national myth-making in some unsavory ways, and national myth-making is one of those funky little things that can be used in incredibly oppressive manners. And so we've got some really, not so questionable. We're pretty quick on the, like, oh, I don't know about this, you guys. I don't know about this. And over the course of these time loops and this grappling with national identity and what it means to create a national myth and what it means to create a sense of selfhood and a story that can be used to help and to harm, Owen falls in love with his subject, has always been in love with his subject, the Lady Knight, Una Everlasting, Saint Una the Virgin. Well, you know, legends have a way of growing to suit our purposes, and they find themselves, you know, closer and closer as they struggle against this looping time situation and obligation of nationality that they find themselves resisting again and again and again, and this desire to free themselves from what is really a curse of being greater than oneself and having oneself used for nefarious purposes. So we've got some really, you know, delicious villains in this, or one, and some really fantastic meditations on, national identity, on resistance, and what it means to be outspoken against this sort of fascistic system that Dominion finds itself under in the present age, this sort of like mid-century 50s-ish Red Scare, Lavender Scare kind of vibe. And then, of course, the 1,000 years past that have sort of built to this moment, and the mythic past where we have this very fantastical element of, this Arthuriana, almost, a story that will be recognizable to fans of the Matter of Britain, and this is simply the Matter of Dominion. It's really just like good, man. It's just like it's good. And this is unsurprising because, you know, we love Alix E. Harrow here on Bar Cart Bookshelf, but like, you gotta read The Everlasting. You gotta be reading it this fall. Come on, you gotta be reading it this fall. And so, of course, we had to have a drink. Our drink today is the Valiance, named for the sword that Una Everlasting carries, because, you know, a cocktail can be a little sharp on you. And we're going to start with 1.5 ounces of gin. We're going to use a very piney gin because we meet again and again underneath the branches of this grand old yew tree in the Queenswald. This sort of public and then privately owned forest. Now, you cannot make something out of you. Yew is poisonous. Do not, feed yew to your livestock. Do not eat yew berries. It's not good for you. Gin, on the other hand, juniper, nice and piney, very, very good for you. Good for the soul, good for the body. And we are using the Moons of Juniper Gin from Copper and Kings, a local Kentucky distiller, one of my favorites. It's one of these really great gins, super, super piney, smack you with a Christmas tree kind of piney. I really dig it. I think you all will as well. If you can't find this particular gin, then just find the piniest, most juniper forward gin that you can manage. We'll get 1.5 ounces of that down into our mixing glass. From there, we'll get 1.5 ounces, or 3/4 of an ounce of dry vermouth. What we're making is sort of a variation on a martini, something ginny and stirred and supple and refreshing. We'll get 3/4 of an ounce of vermouth. When you are opening a fresh bottle of vermouth, make sure you've refrigerated after. Lots of people don't like vermouth, and that's because they're drinking stale vermouth that they've had sitting out at room temperature and open for, 4 months or multiple years, and you don't want to do that. That's the reason why you don't like vermouth. What you want to do is get your fresh bottle of vermouth. Once you open it, stick it in the fridge and try and use it within about a month, which is why I always get the half bottle instead of the full bottle. And, I love a good martini. So, take with this the wisdom of the ages, conferred unto you, beloved Bar Cart Bookshelf viewers. And then we will add 1/2 ounce of Saint Germain elderflower liqueur. Got these wonderful flowers in the book, these sort of olive flowers, which are sort of lovely white flowers, sort of like dragon scales. And that just made me think of how beautiful it is when the elderflowers are blooming in the spring, these wonderful white flowers of the elderflower that we get here in our Saint Germain. And of course, if you have another elderflower liqueur that you like as well, that's a great option too. Next, for a bit more of that herbal complexity, because we're really digging in on herbal complexity, we're going to get 1/4 ounce of green chartreuse. It's going to be a little hard to find these days, which is why we're using only 1/4 ounce. It's a nice herbal monastic blend, bittersweet, a little bit mentholated, just really lovely and complex. And as you've noticed, we've been decreasing the amount of each ingredient because we're looping tighter and tighter and tighter. And we've got one more last little bit to add, which is 2 droppers full of the crude Pooter smoke and salt bitters. Owen, our main character, our male lead, smokes cigarettes. As I said, this is this very mid-century. We're chain smoking. We're smoking like chimneys, just. And he smokes Lucky Stars. And he is smoking and smoking like a chimney. And so we got to get that little bit of smoke in there. This is going to be, nice and briny, like the tears that we're shedding as well. Because we are going through some hard times as a family. Things are not great for Owen and Una in really delightful ways. But now we've got all of our ingredients in our mixing glass for our Valiance. We'll add our ice. We always add our ice last because we never know when we're going to be called upon to quest for a grail or slay the last dragon of Dominion. And we don't want to come back from our quest to a watery cocktail. So we add our ice just when we are ready to serve. And oh, you can smell that hint of smoke. You can smell that piney, herbaceous quality, that touch of florality, just really resonant and echoing across time. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And we want to stir for maybe 20 seconds or so, or until the ice and the liquid are at an equilibrium in our mixing glass. Lovely. Perfect. take our handy-dandy julep strainer, get that on the edge, and strain into a stemmed glass, like so. Perfect. And then, because we can't have a drink named for a sword without a little sword, and we can't have a yew without some lovely red yew berries, we're going to garnish this with a cocktail cherry. I'm using the brandied cherries from Copper and Kings as well, and we will get that on a cocktail pick and garnish our Valiance with that. And so there you have it. This is the Valiance inspired by the Everlasting by Alix E. Harrow. A huge thank you to the publisher Tor Books for sending me an advanced review copy so we can talk about this right about when the book is out. Came out last week, but we were still in spooky season, and now we're full on fantasy, baby. I've got a link to snag it in the description down below. I'll be heading to my local indie bookstore, Carmichael's, to snag a hard copy soon, because I've got to have a hardcover. It's the Everlasting. I got to have a hardcover. It's illustrated. Keep your eye out for that. I've got a link to purchase my book, Cocktails and Consoles. You'll find a number of knights and heroes in there as well as quite a few time loops. Let's be real, we got a lot of those in video games. I've got links to various forms of social media, including Blue Sky and Instagram, where there is always a written version of today's recipe. Try the drink. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Hit that like button. It makes me so happy when you do. Subscribe if you haven't already so you never miss an episode. We've got some really great books coming as we head into November and December. Some great new titles, as well as some exciting fantasy classics coming in just a couple of weeks. And so, until next time, cheers.